Greetings, witches and friends of witches. Welcome to the Witches Movie Coven. Yes, witches talking about witches in movies. Very experienced witches with opinions about witches in movies. My name is Patti Negri. I am one of your hosts. You might know me from my podcast, The Witching Hour, from Ghost Adventures, from Portals to Hell, from here, there, and everywhere, but I am honored to be here with you now. Let my co-hosts introduce themselves, starting with Heather.
Hi, I'm Heather Greene. I am a journalist and I covering things that are part of the occult or witchcraft. I am also an editor at Llewellyn Worldwide, working with witchy authors, as well as the author of Lights, Camera, Witchcraft, which is right now on the screen there. It's a critical history of witches in American film and television, covering all kinds of things witchy from the late 1800s to 2020 in American cinema and television.
Thank you. Richard-Lael.
Hi, I am Richard-Lael. Richard-Lael is one name, not two. If I were just Richard, I would be a... With that, I am known as the Gentleman Psychic. I am a psychic and a medium. I used to be a psychic and a small, but I gained some weight. I am here in New Orleans. I also am a teacher at University Magicus, and I am also, you might know me from Ghost Adventures. You might know me from Scared and Alone. You might know me from various other things that are happening, but I'm here.
Thank you. Thank you. And last and never least, Courtney.
That's me. I'm Courtney Buckley, ghost bait from Scared and Alone, proud member of the Witches Movie Coven, and I am excited for tonight because I will take responsibility for this movie. It is my birthday pick because my birthday's on Saturday, and I have my glasses ready to go for anyone's irrelevant opinions.
Laying the groundwork.
There it is.
Birthday, Courtney. We want to wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you.
And all. Sadly, Jason will not be with us this evening because he left us for Def Leppard.
Wow. I now know how important our friendship is.
So anyway, he will be back next week. I'm not sure I will be here next week. I might be driving home from LAX. But I'll check in if I can. But you are well covered with this fine crew right here. This week's movie, Ponyo, animated film. Ponyo from 2008. Ponyo. I watched it. In case somebody there did not watch it, Richard-Lael, do you have an unbiased explanation or synopsis of this film?
I certainly do have an unbiased synopsis of this film. It is a story that is, of course, Studio Ghibli. I hope I said that correctly. And Courtney is preparing for her glasses to be put on. But the story is the story about the king of the sea who was once human. And he's this magical wizard-like being who lives in the water, and he has Satan's school for girls. No, I'm just kidding. He has a group of fish that are actually his daughters, his chicken of the sea, if you will. And one said daughter, Brunhilde, escapes, and she is saved from a bottle, like a genie on a beach, by a little boy, and he calls her Ponyo. Now, it's P-A-N-Y-O, by the way, because there were a lot of other films that were very close, and I had to go back and look at the spelling. P-A-N-Y-O, Ponyo. Anyway, he rescues this.
P-O.
Oh,
P-O-N.
P-O-N-Y-O. I spelled it P-O-N-Y-O. Anyway, Ponyo. She falls in love with this boy, Sosuke, and she has in her fish form kissed his finger, licked his finger, tasted his human blood, and transforms into that of a girl. And so her father tries to retrieve her back, and she refuses to be a fish in the sea because she wants to be where the people are. She wants to see them dancing, walking around on those, whatever those things are. Feet, legs, right. It turns out that her mother is not necessarily the absentee mother that you would find in a lot of the Disney versions of The Little Mermaid, but she is in fact the goddess of mercy. And in the interim, all of the world is thrown out of balance. The moon is coming in, the waves are rising, the waters are drowning people. Nobody dies because it's a cartoon, but all the waters are flooding the earth, and the king of the sea has sort of managed to be in communication with the goddess who was his wife or girlfriend, who's much older than he is. And she explains that these children have to fall in love, and Sosuke must accept her for who she is. And they do. The end, roll credits. That's about it.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we understand the film, and they all live happily ever after. I will go. Oh, well, no, I'm not going to go yet, because Heather, do you have a more academic explanation of this film, whether it's a movie or book or not?
Well, it's not my book, because my book focuses on American film and television, and there's a reason for that, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. And I've mentioned it when we've done foreign films in the past, but I do have 5 little notes for everybody to talk about and think about this movie. First, the director, Miyazaki. 2, when it was released and how it did. 3, the cast, the English language cast that you all of you probably heard. There were some names in there we need to mention. 4, context, and 5, some themes that we want to pull out of this that's very interesting about the movie. So first, Miyazaki. This was his 8th film with Studio Ghibli. He co-founded that studio, this animation studio, in the 80s. And I believe the first film was Castle in the Sky. He eventually did, we've done 3 films of his here. We've talked about, we did, let's see, Spirited Away, and we did Kiki's Delivery Service. He started out as an in-between artist. If you don't know what that is in animation, that's when the main animators will do position 1 and position 5, and then they send them to the in-betweeners to actually do the little teeny movements between. So he started out years ago as an in-betweener, eventually became this phenomenal, successful, and probably one of the most famous Japanese animators in the world. In fact, he's gotten 2 Academy Awards. One was for Spirited Away, and one was in 2023. And for what's the most recent film?
Boy and the Heron.
Boy and the Heron. Thank you very much. Just won that this past year. And if you're interested in his films, they're actually doing a Studio Ghibli festival throughout the country, and in movie theaters near you. So he is an amazing artist, an amazing animator, and world renowned. And he's been around since the 80s doing this. Number 2, the release of this particular film. He created this film in 2008. It was released after the success of Howl's Moving Castle, which I recommend, and I hopefully will do that movie here at some point, because there is a witch in it. And it was phenomenally successful, and they wanted him to do something that was a little bit more kid-oriented, or just a kid-friendly movie. So Ponyo eventually came out of that after he went searching for a story. This is not a fairy tale that was pre-written. He wrote this story. And yes, Little Mermaid was one of the many inspirations for this tale. It was released in July of 2008. It eventually earned $204 million worldwide. It was a huge success. In Japan, it won awards as the top anime film that year. It was widely acclaimed. It was released in the United States with the help of the Walt Disney Company under their brand in 2009. Again, being widely acclaimed, critically acclaimed, got all kinds of success. So that was Ponyo, and that was 2008. The English cast, of course, we have our own cast because we don't all understand Japanese. It had a great cast for the original in Japan, But and interestingly enough, it was originally released to Japanese television, not in the theaters. So this is technically a TV movie by American standards, which is kind of funny. But the American cast, or the English language cast, had, I'm sure some of you guys might have recognized some of the voices. We had Liam Neeson. He was the wizard. You had Matt Damon. You had Cate Blanchett, Tina Fey, Betty White. One of the Jonas Brothers was doing a voice. Cloris Leachman, Lily Tomlin. I mean, a cast of just famous actors and actresses. A lot of those older actresses were the old ladies in the place. If you didn't recognize Betty White's voice, then I don't know what to tell you. I got nothing for you. So that was really nice. For context, so this is, again, a Japanese film. And when I talk about foreign films, and why was this not in my book, is that you have to understand that films are made within the context. And this, again, is a context thing. I can't tell you about context in this movie in American terms because it was not made here. It was not made for our audiences. So I specifically wrote my book with the notion of understanding our context, our history, our culture, to understand the way these films were made and how they worked. You have to do the same to really understand context when you're looking at films. So there's things that in this film that we as American audiences might have missed the subtleties of, because it was not made for us. It was not made within our cultural context. So we miss things. We also might read things wrong or may read things differently. And one of the funny things, there's two funny things that I can note about that is when we watch Kiki's Delivery Service, one of the funniest reactions that I think Courtney also had is when Kiki goes into the old lady's house and starts baking bread with the big oven. My reaction was, oh my goodness, she's going to die. This is her. This is going to be death for her, because I know the magic, I know the witchcraft is associated. So was that tension that I was experiencing something that Miyazaki put into it on purpose? Or was that because I am coming from a Western standpoint where I grew up with Hansel and Gretel and European fairy tales? So you have to always understand that we are reading these films as Americans, and we're either reading things that weren't put there, or we're reading things, or we're missing things. And that's okay. That's okay. We can still enjoy or not enjoy. And one of the things that I saw a lot of people talking about is this notion of the kids falling in love for her to turn, which is very much in Western fairy tales, something that happens all the time. Snow White, Cinderella, all these stories about true love. And that's what breaks the spell, or that's what makes them transform. That's how Little Mermaid eventually becomes the human. But these were kids. They were 5-year-olds. So that becomes a little creepy. But if you notice in a lot of Miyazaki's films, you have that notion of love, true love, without the romance. We saw it in Kiki's Delivery Service. We see it in some of the other ones. So is that something? So perhaps that this is something that's emanating from Japanese culture and Miyazaki's own ideas, his own artistry, that we're reading into it because of our Western influence. So that's the comment. That's my comment on context. So we have to be really careful with how not careful, but we have to just be mindful of that difference of our judgment versus how it was made. And the themes, I love Miyazaki's themes, and I just wanted to bring those up last, to always look for them. There's always some kind of magic, supernatural thing that's tied into nature, very much into exploring the idea of technology versus nature, chaos versus something natural. Really comes out in Princess Mononoke. You have pacifism versus violence. And also a lot of times these stories are journeys. Rather than this fight against evil, this good versus evil we find in a very Christian-based culture, we have tensions, we have conflict, but yet they're journeys. They're journeys for our little characters, our 5-year-olds, they're journeys for our 20-year-olds. And they have these people exploring, evolving, learning. So it's very, very interesting the way these movies evolve, because in the end, the witch is not bad. In what's the one we did, Spirited Away? The witch there's tension. You don't like her. She seems bad, but yet she isn't bad. And the same with our wizard here, who's our witch character. at first you're like, he's weird, what is he doing? But he's just the guardian of the sea, and in the end he's just like the witch. It's okay. There isn't that marked good versus evil that we see in like Disney animated films, in The Little Mermaid, for example. So I think these are interesting things to always think about when you see a Miyazaki film, because there's all kinds of interesting nuance that, whether you like the story or not, that you can sort of dive into and enjoy or explore. So that's it.
Thank you. That is very helpful to me, because you guys know I'm not an anime person or an animated person. It's not my bag as a rule. I did enjoy it. This is I can't believe you guys are going to think I'm a stoner. This is another one I should have been high.
You hesitated, Patti. You said I did enjoy it.
But it's like, but I had issues with the 5-year-old thing. Oh, yeah. Besides, yes, the love. True love. You have to know true love, not just like love of appreciation of another human. It was like love. I didn't get that. But even worse than that was, what mother would leave their 5-year-old child alone in a town that's flooding when the water is rising up? You stay here alone to a 5-year-old with a fish, and mother takes off, and she's the worst driver I have ever seen. And she tells them to hold on, and she's like skidding across the world as the waves. I'm like, I'm terrified for these children. Fish or not fish. So I had trouble getting past that. I love the American casting. I could just listen to Liam Neeson all day, all night. He could have just talked all day, all night. And yes, I got Betty White, because I didn't even look beforehand. I was like, that's Betty White of Who is Who. So, but it probably is the Japanese sensibility versus the American sensibilities. I could not get past her bad mothering and Love at 5, but it was pretty, and I liked the Goddess of the Sea, and I loved Liam Neeson, and the kid was pretty cute. But you can't let the old people drown, and you can't leave a 5-year-old alone.
Can I share why I picked it?
Yeah.
So I know I've talked about Ponyo on our podcast before when we've done other Studio Ghibli films, because Ponyo was my first one, and I watched it by accident because Nathan was really little and loved the aquarium and the ocean. So anything ocean themed, I would try. And, we were struggling with his new autism diagnosis and everything, and getting him to talk and engage in things. And I was at the gas station of all places, and they had a little basket of like $5 movies, and I saw Ponyo, and it was a fish and in the ocean, and I was like, it's a cartoon, I'm just gonna try it. And I grabbed it for $5, and I brought it home, and I put it on, and it was like baby crack. And this child sat for Ponyo and didn't tear his eyes away from the screen, and then would ask for it. And to get him to ask for something was huge. So I've had to buy the DVD of Ponyo like 7 times, because this was before streaming. It wore out, and I didn't really I watched it, but it was also like, oh my God, okay, now I can like make a choice board, or I can do whatever while he's sitting. And so I don't think I really appreciated it until he was a little bit older and we watched it together. And then I started to fall in love with it because it was magical, because it was beautiful. And I still don't think I understood the themes yet, but when I became a teacher, I played it for the kids in the classroom, and I watched all of them sit there and stare at it and not want to move. And it was magic. It was like watching, but then now we're watching with them because we're trying to like make it into something. So we're trying to pull things from it to talk to them about, so that we can, it's not just a movie day. And that's where I started to realize that, because I had the same sort of gut reaction in the beginning. Like, it was weird, this love thing with little babies. But to me, when I started watching it, what I took from it was, yes, they're saying true love, but I don't think it means true romantic love. It means true unconditional love, the love that you have for another human being, and learning that at such a young age, that you can just love people for who they are and not judge them and not, whatever, and just take care of them. And it doesn't matter if they're different, and it doesn't matter if they're weird. And that to me was the most beautiful thing. And as soon as that clicked for me, I became obsessed. So now my work computer is Ponyo everything. My background is Ponyo. I realized just as you guys were talking, I have a Ponyo plushie that I meant to bring with me, and I forgot it in the other room. I bought all the kids little Ponyos because they're obsessed with them. So I bought them little Ponyo keychains. I had extras. They're in Ponyo jail at school in a little basket. So then when the kids don't do their work, the Ponyos are sad. And then Ponyo has become like part of our vernacular. So it's like, if I'm having a bad day, I'm a sad Ponyo, because in the movie, some of her animations, she's a sad Ponyo. So today I'm a sad Ponyo. Like and I ended up deciding, and I kind of talked about this a little bit last week, that one of the next tattoos that I have planned is a tarot card. And I want the picture, I want the lovers, and I want it to be the picture of Ponyo and Sosuke, because to me, again, it doesn't represent falling in love romantically. This is the picture. It doesn't represent falling in love romantically. It just means accepting someone for who they are and loving them anyway, or loving them because of that, just unconditionally. And I think that there is nothing as beautiful as that. And it's what we should all strive for as humans. And, you know, that positivity and that love that we try to spread. And then having had this experience and connection with my autistic son, who is not loved and accepted always, and, you know, others like him, to watch them react to it kind of just heightens that for me. So this movie I chose for us, obviously there's not a traditional witch in it, but it is magical, and the feelings that I get from it are magical. And, you know, it is, to me, such an important film in my life, in my world. So I just wanted to share it with everyone.
Aww.
That's
Okay.
beautiful. And
That is-
and I just want to just piggyback real quick, and I think that's the conversation, getting back to the love part. That is definitely, I can't say for sure because I haven't heard Miyazaki talk about this, but we are so used to Western fairy tales where true love means true love, like at a
Right.
Princess Bride,
Yeah.
or which I can't help saying in that accent every time I hear it. Sorry. Or you know, every fairy tale we see, every Disney fairy tale, when we talk about true love, the first thing you think of is romantic love between a 16 to 20-year-old girl and a 16 to 20-year-old boy, right? Out of these are Western fairy tales, and this is written like a fairy tale with aspects that do recall Western fairy tales. So when they talk about that love, and especially since you have to kiss her and all those little elements, all of our brains who grew up on a steady diet of Disney Western fairy tales are, of course, are going to get confused and be like, wait a minute, they're 5 years old. How is this possible? But really, I agree with you, Courtney. True love, my love for my parents is true love. My love for my brother is true love. You know, it's not romantic love, but it's true love. So just kind of widening that idea kind of sets that part of the problem free when you think of it, the movie, in those terms. And they did it. The same thing happened in Kiki's. We had the same thing with it. They were a little older, maybe 8, 10, 12. I don't know how old Kiki was. They were still kids. So, but I do agree with you when she left the child and ran out of the car to go to work.
Oh yeah.
And she was like, see you later. And he's like still in the car, and he's in a booster seat. My goodness. And I'm like, she didn't even help him out of his little booster seat with his little bucket. Oh my God. So there was some weirdness with that, but okay. But the true love, I agree with you 100%. Reread that meaning.
Well, and the thing is, I had to watch this movie, and I'm not exaggerating, probably 1,000 times before that clicked, and I'm like genuine, it 1,000 times at least, and it didn't hit me the right way until recently, like within the last year. It didn't hit me the right way, and so it literally, like, it's Looney Tunes. It's absolutely Looney Tunes, but most Studio Ghibli films are Looney Tunes, and they're just beautiful, and we just forgive it because it's so nice to watch. And I think that this is not an exception. Like him walking around with the little sprayer, spraying the salt water so he can walk around on land. Like what? And like,
what is that?
And then the goddess of the whatever mercy, like, and everyone just accepts that, like, this giant tidal wave with this giant glowing woman who is, like, I don't know, the size of New York City is floating underneath, and everyone's like, oh, we know who this is, like, let's start praying because this is a thing that's happening.
I actually want to talk about that part.
But yeah, it is Looney Tunes. It is absolutely Looney Tunes, but something in it captures the attention of children in a way that I think is wild to see. And then when you let yourself be a kid for a minute and just get captured along, it's magic. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
I wanted to say, first of all, the film is beautiful. I thought it was charming. I thought it was sweet. And I knew exactly why you picked it. And I cannot say anything negative about it. I was only teasing when I was saying that I might. Truth is, it was beautiful. But I was more intrigued by some of the other lore. I will have to tell you that in The Little Mermaid, I was actually disappointed that she didn't die. Because in the original story, she has to climb the tower and say, I have to let his blood drop onto my legs. And that way then I can keep what I want forever, but not have him. And she sees him asleep with a woman that he ostensibly loves, and she raises the blade and she looks into that knife blade and she sees her own reflection and she says, I can't. And she flings herself out of the tower window and becomes sea foam, which of course is mentioned if he doesn't love her, if he doesn't accept her, she will turn into sea foam, which I liked that nod.
From which we all come.
What was that?
From which we all come. That's what the moms.
And I liked in this film that Ponyo did not turn to sea foam, but I was disappointed in The Little Mermaid when she didn't, because it was such a departure. This one is a completely different story. I love that her original name is Brunhilde. Brunhilde, of course, is one of the Valkyries. She goes to Valhalla. The goddess. I was doing some research before, and there is mention of her. She predates Buddhism, even though in this film she's associated with Kuan Yin, who by the way is the first trans Buddha. She was born male and she becomes the divine feminine. So phenomenal there, but this goddess goes way back before. And in the boat, when he says, oh, it's the goddess of mercy, they just assumed that if I see this, 500-foot woman, that maybe she's the goddess of mercy. But this image is all over the world. The goddess of the sea. It is the Emoya in African religions. It is mermaids. It's the sea folk, and it is a symbol of mercy. I think it is. I think that was powerful. And even the fact that I liked the way that the dad, the father, the guardian of the sea, he came around to his daughter and understood that she needed her to be her own, but he was so protective over the one. And growing up in the church as I did, it sort of is that sort of almost Christ-like story of I'm leaving the 99 to go for the one. I thought that was a little sweet, actually. But yes, Heather, you are right. There are a lot of Western ideals that we are putting into it that are not, I think, intended.
I also just want to point this out because I'd really like to open this up for discussion, and I'd like to hear what you guys thought about it. In all of my 1,000 watchings of this, I interpret this differently every time. But I sometimes think that the old ladies died and that they were dead at the end, underwater. And that that was supposed to symbolize, because they were talking about how they felt young again and they were free and they could walk around because they were underwater. But why would they all be underwater? They weren't in a bubble. They were just walking around underwater. So I thought in my brain sometimes that they died, and that these ethereal beings, whoever they were, guardians of the sea, had captured them because they were with people, or they were important to Sosuke, or they were whatever. And and sometimes I don't think that, but there's a little piece of my brain that thinks that that is an interpretation of it.
There
and I
is
love
a possibility of this, actually. In Greek mythology, the seahorse is the one that would rescue the deceased sailors from the waves. And instead of taking them to land, they take them across the river Styx. So they take them to their afterlife, and they are undersea. So there is some truth. The only thought is at the end when everyone is sort of climbing up the mountains and they say, well, why don't you go ahead and get the wheelchairs? And they go, oh no, we love to walk.
Yeah. And
Right.
and didn't Mom wasn't she underwater without a bubble too? And she
Well, and see, I think sometimes when I watch it, I think that they all died. That like the end of the movie, like the last day of the movie was their journey into the other world.
I mean, the moon was really, really close to Earth.
Right. Like I feel like everybody was way too cool about that and all of it for it to be like a normal thing. And like then when there was the people on the boats like surviving, like it almost felt to me like a tsunami, and some of them survived and some of them didn't. And like that's sometimes when I watch it, only sometimes. But
And then that couple in the rowboat,
yeah,
who gave them another candle. So I mean, you're just out here like there's a tsunami, everything is flooded. We're just going to have a little picnic on a boat.
right. Yeah, that's what I mean. It like I think I overanalyze it because I've seen it so many times, but like sometimes that last day just feels like they're all dead, which is fine. But like that's, I don't know. I interpret it that way sometimes.
Yeah, I didn't read it. Sorry, Patty, go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
No, I was going to just say I didn't read it like that. They were joking about that when they were looking out at one point. Said, "Oh, is this the afterlife?" They were joking about that, but I read it as I just went with the magic of it, and it took me a while to figure out. Okay, are they in one of his bubbles and it's air, or are they not? And then I finally said, okay, they're not. So I figured this was just magic. I mean, there was that giant goddess woman that was changing sizes and had totally different animation style than anybody else in that whole space. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going with this as magic. This is one of those, what did you call it earlier? Those weird Studio Ghibli aspects of the movie. And then they come up and everything's good and la, 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 la. And then he's got the little girl and the mom's going to raise them. So I did not read it like that, just to chime in.
Yeah, I didn't read it like that. But what I did find interesting is like Dad, Liam, who I loved him. I love the wizard character. He didn't seem anything but human. He always had to have a bubble air on him. He did not have any fish aspects. So he was like a human who was told to take care of the water somehow. But he didn't seem to have any of the fish benefits.
And he was very angry about humans all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
I mean, I can understand.
As can I. Yeah.
I've lived all over the world, and when he gets to the point where he's after Ponyo, he's chasing Brunhilde, and Brunhilde come back, and then he goes. There's all of the muck that's in the bottom of the ocean, and it's tires and shoes and jars and plastic and bottles and oil and he goes, ugh. Humans are disgusting. And I went, well,
yeah,
you're kind of right.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was interesting to compare him to the other father figure who is constantly gone. I mean, you see him on the boat. It's a while before you even see him. So you have this one story about this overprotective dad who doesn't want his daughter, his child, to grow into and change as she grows and changes to evolve into her next self. And then you have the other father who's kind of absentee, and he's on the boat just flickering lights, and he's trying, and he's like, oh, he's a protector dad, you know. And then you have also the two moms too, the one who's there, crazy, can't drive, and then you have this ethereal mom who's never there and just kind of all of a sudden shows up and is beautiful and then disappears again. So you have this kind of different parenting things going on too, some depth in the story with comparing those pieces. So that's nice too. I mean, you get that with these stories, these kind of little, they're kids' stories, but yet he adds these little kind of interesting pieces in there that you can dive into, I think.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Is there anything we haven't talked about yet on this one? I don't know.
Well, there's one other theme that gets pulled out if we wanted to talk about it is that sometimes this is a lot of people think this is an allegory for the LGBTQ community, and well, they say specifically trans, but just evolving into the person you want to be. And I think it's less of an allegory in my mind and more of an inspiration, because it could be an inspiration for anybody who is wanting to do something else and be somebody, be their true self or try something new. But it's actually, I read that it's actually becoming sort of this I don't know what to call it, not a support film, but it's actually being read like that and enjoyed in that way. So
I can absolutely see why it would be accepted in that way. I think absolutely, I on that topic, I have a nephew that I'm very proud of. He's FTM, and I'm very proud of him. It's a really hard journey. I can watch and say, he lives in a space where it's not easy to be oneself. And I know, because I lived there, and where I'm not trans, I am definitely on a spectrum of many other things that are not widely accepted in certain parts of the United States. So I can understand that. And also you kind of feel for the Guardian of the Sea, you kind of understand, because he has seen ugliness, and he's seen cruelty, and he's seen disease, and he's seen rubbish, and he wants so badly to protect his own child, and he wants her to remain innocent, and she can't. On a personal note,
and she's 5.
and she is. I mean, that's true. That part is true. On a personal note, I was 25, and my father had passed away, and I knew I could not stay where I was, and I moved to Vegas. I just moved to Vegas, and talk about. And I was naive, and I was really naive at 25. I mean, maybe who isn't, but I was really naive at 25. And then I was plunged right into the lights and
Wow.
it was fresh off the farm. I was like Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farms.
Wow.
Yeah, I could see that. That could be who you want to be and need to be at age 5. But other than the age 5 thing, now I know we do have a Mankey movie moment, but I don't know if we're able to play it or not. Producer Rob here in the other world at the ethers.
I'm not there with you all tonight, but it is Courtney's birthday, so I was certainly going to be here in one way or another. And of course, I got Courtney a birthday present. Let's see what it is. Oh, it's a 6-pack of cider. And Courtney, in honor of your birthday, I am going to drink all of this on my way to the Def Leppard concert tonight. So thank you so much, Courtney, for sharing your birthday bounty with me. So anyways, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dearest Courtney. I can put a hex on you too. However, my birthday hexes are positive things. Consider yourself birthday hexed. And I will prepare for the hexes you are going to throw at me after I'm done with tonight's bit. So with all the birthday stuff out of the way, let's get to the movie part of this. And I'll admit, when I first heard we were doing this movie, I was super excited, but probably not for the reasons you would expect. I was excited because I thought this movie was called Porno and not Ponyo. In my head, I was like, Courtney is super freaky picking this kind of a movie. And Courtney might still be a super freak. I don't know. But Ponyo is most certainly not an adult film. So where to begin with this movie? Well, let's start at the start, where we meet Willy Wonka's little brother, Charlie Wonka, who is doing something in the ocean. And while Wonka 2 is busy, a little fish thing shows up and squeezes out of a cave or something. And that's where this horror show begins. The fish thing that will come to be known as Ponyo is total nightmare fuel. It's a fish with a human head and no tail. I'm sorry, Courtney, that thing is creepy, and if I had caught Ponyo, I would have tossed her back into the sea where she belongs. So, Ponyo escapes her ocean Wonka father by hitching a ride on a jellyfish. More bad dreams here for me personally, because I want to stop and talk for a moment about how scary jellyfish are. Jellyfish, when you think about it, are giant bags of living goo, and they sting you when you're in the ocean. I live in fear of them, and I don't know which is scarier. A boat running on electric batteries, sharks, or a jellyfish. I'm casting my vote for jellyfish. At this point, the movie should be about over because Ponyo gets stuck in a glass jar and ends up near the shore. It's here that she meets a boy named Sosuke who attempts to free her from the bottle by pulling and stretching her to the point where her guts should have exploded. But that doesn't work, so this little murderer takes a rock to the bottle to break it open, which should have been the end, right? How do those shards of glass not end up in her creepy little eyes? But Ponyo survives, and Sosuke then kidnaps the fish, putting her in a bucket and then filling that bucket with fresh water. I don't know a whole lot about fish, but I know that most of them could only live in salt or fresh water, and you can't go changing that stuff. The end. But no, it's not the end, because we haven't met Sosuke's depressed, bitter, dangerous, and usually drunken mother yet. When Dad has to work late, Mom drinks until she passes out, and then tells her husband to bug off 6 times in Morse code. When a tsunami comes to Japan, Mom drives through a restricted and flooding area with her kid in tow. She then gets to her house and tells her 5-year-old son, "You're in charge. Mom has to go back out in the tsunami. Will someone please call Child Protective Services?" At this point, I'm hoping Sosuke and Ponyo go back and live in the sea with Charlie Wonka the Water Wizard. It would be much, much safer than this out-of-control woman. I assume this is running late in the show, so you all know by now that Ponyo turns into a little human girl because Sosuke loves her. And nothing says "Happy Birthday, Courtney" more loudly than a film about a 5-year-old boy who falls in love with a fish that magically turns into a girl. And where's Ponyo going to live after this? Is she going to move in with Sosuke's family and become his sister girlfriend? There are so many unanswered questions here. Maybe I don't even want them answered. But I know what's going to happen. This boy is going to make his therapist a lot of money because he's going to be seeing that therapist for the rest of his life to make sense of all of this. And I might seek therapy too after considering these questions about Ponyo the movie. However, in all seriousness, this is a bit. This is a beautiful movie and an imaginative one, and though I legitimately do find Ponyo kind of creepy looking, I'm still giving it a wands up. And also, most importantly, happy birthday, Courtney.
What is
Oh,
he's ever been?
I'm sorry. I have actual tears coming out of my eyes because of Charlie Wonka, the wizard, the water wizard. Oh God.
Okay, so
That was perfect.
that was
Yeah.
beautiful. That was beautiful. So now we all have to vote. Wands up, wands down, and this is for all. We want to thank you, Colin, Tabitha, Chaya, all of you out there who are Robert, everybody. I'm not sure this is a great. Well, I wish I could hear it. I know it was hard to hear, but maybe it'll be up on our page later, and we'll be able to hear it. Our producer Bob's pretty good at that. But we do want you guys' opinion on the movie itself. Yes, it's going to be with reactions from Courtney page. So there's more to come. If you didn't hear it, you could watch it over and over again, like Courtney watches Ponyo. So, wands up, wands down. We want everybody to vote. Oh, you've got a vote!
I'm just kidding. I rescued it from the bottom of the sea.
Richard-Lael.
I can see the goddess of mercy too.
Both you and Jason's names are going in my jar this week.
I put it up.
Okay. Well, real close.
Okay, well, I'm pretty much up. I mean, I'm wavering because of the bad parenting, on all counts. But it was beautiful, and I did like the complexities in the simplicity and all that kind of stuff. So we got wands up, wands way up. Very cute movie, definite wands up. Oh, this is getting some high ratings all the way around. I don't think there's even been a solid neutral, let alone a wands down yet.
I'm not. I have to add though. I'm giving it a wands up, but it's not my favorite Studio Ghibli movie. Sorry,
That's fair.
Courtney.
No, that's fair.
Still, Spirited Away and Princess Mononoke are definitely still my top. I can't let go of those two. So, but I enjoyed it and appreciated it. And I definitely think that my child, who is also obsessed with the sea and now who's studying to work with sea mammals, if he had seen this when he was little, he was probably about 6 at that age, 7 when this came out. If he had seen it then, he would have been equally obsessed. So I totally get what it meant to your family.
And by the way, Courtney, do you know what the lyrics are to
Ponyo, 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 fishy in the sea. Shiny little fishy, who could she really be? Ponyo, 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 she's a little fish. I can't remember the rest of it. But yeah.
Do you have other quotes?
Oh, yes, I do.
Oh, quotes. Can I really fast? I just want to talk to Colin. I have been posting on my YouTube channel. I have been posting my podcast, my Willow reports, my Where's Patti. So maybe I do have a clone or a hacker. I don't know. But anyway, let's go back to the movie. So I will check that out. Thank you, Colin, for bringing that up. I don't know.
So one of my favorite quotes, and it's because when I first watched the movie, we then started saying it about everything, was when they just accept that Ponyo's a girl with the bucket and came in on the tsunami, and that's fine. And then they go in and all the power's out, and the mom makes them tea with the honey, which looks really good, and then the ramen noodles, and she has them cover their eyes, and she sneaks the ham in, and then Ponyo opens up the thing and she goes, ham. And so every time anybody ate anything in my house for like the rest of that year, every time it would be like ham. Like that was my favorite.
Also, is it cursed ham?
That's why I found that so personally offensive when my ham was stolen. And I said it then too. I will have everyone know. I said it then too. So there's
not in front of my salad.
Yeah. Oh, not in front of my ham. Don't touch my ham. My ham. So then there's another one where they're asking. Oh no, wait, hold on. I'm going backwards. Wait a minute. Oh, the old ladies, I love everything that they say because they're crazy, but they're talking about the fish. I feel like I can't remember who said it, but I think it was Jason with the human face on the fish. But one of them says, "It has a real face on it. Hurry up, put it back in the ocean. Don't you realize it'll cause a tsunami?" And then the other one says, "Oh, it's always tsunami day and night." And she goes, "Fish with faces who come out of the sea cause tsunamis. That's what they always say. Tsunami, tsunami, it's here. Oh, Sosuke, put her back in the ocean where she belongs." And she's like a crazy lady, right? Everybody thinks she's a crazy lady, but then the tsunami happens. So not really, not crazy. When Sosuke's showing off Ponyo in the bucket, because he already loves her. She's a fish and he already loves her. And she's showing her off in the bucket to the other little girl. And she's like, "Look at her, isn't she pretty?" And the other girl goes, "That's the most boring goldfish I've ever seen in my life." And then Ponyo squirts her in the face with water, which is great. Another old lady quote, "I'd let a fish lick me if it'd get me out of this wheelchair." And then, let's see. Another one of my favorite quotes, and I feel like she says this a lot, but Ponyo yells all the time, "Ponyo loves Sosuke. I will be a human too." And it's just the cutest thing, I think, to me. And then later on in the movie at the end, when they're testing Sosuke and they're asking him if he would love Ponyo and like take on that responsibility of loving Ponyo. And he says, I'll love Ponyo. I'll love all the Ponyos. And it was just like, that's the heart of a child. They just love everyone, which is beautiful. let's see. So Ponyo, what's your dad like? He hates humans. He keeps me in a bubble, so I swam away from home. And then they're asking her about her mother, and she goes, she's big and beautiful, but she can be very scary. And Sosuke says, just like my mom, which I always laughed at. But yeah, that the ham quotes and the Ponyo loves Sosuke. I yell that all the time. Anytime anyone says anything about Ponyo in my vicinity, the first thing that happens is I scream, Ponyo loves Sosuke. So those are my quotes. I love this movie, and it's part of my everyday vernacular. And I'm either a happy Ponyo or a sad Ponyo on a daily basis.
Today, are you a happy Ponyo or a sad Ponyo?
I'm a little bit of both today.
Aww. Happy sad.
Being a sad Ponyo is fine. Sad Ponyo is when she is half human, half fish. So she has legs and her face is the fish face. So she looks really ugly, but she's still so cute because she's so ugly. I don't know. She's a sad Ponyo. So now you guys can do
chicken hands.
Yeah, chicken.
Chicken hands and feet.
Yep.
Yeah, when she's the half and halfway. Yeah.
Yep. And she uses up too much of her magic, but that's another thing that's part of it. Like anytime Sosuke needs something, she gives like all of herself to him, because that's what you do when you love people. You just love them with everything that you are. So.
And they lived happily ever after.
I mean, you don't know. It ended with a kiss and then roll credits, and they are 5.
Yeah, but they don't have to. They could be best friends forever. They don't have to be sister boyfriends. Whatever Jason said, they are just best friends. They're
friends.
I don't think in my life that I knew what love was really until Nathan was put on my chest after he was born, and then I understood it. And I love my friends fiercely, and I love a lot of things, and I think we don't get that a lot in movies. We don't get the representation of the other loves. And so maybe they did live happily ever after, just loving each other.
That's a good point, because I myself, I want to know what love is.
There's a lot of
show me.
There's a lot of singing today, and I am concerned about that.
I like it.
That's okay. That is okay. As long as it's not a happy birthday dirge, we are good to go.
Yeah.
We can sing.
So are you doing anything special for your birthday, Courtney?
I'm undecided. I haven't figured it out yet. I realize that it's 4 days away, but I started back to work this week, and it's been wild. So I haven't really done a lot of birthday planning yet.
Okay.
Whatever makes you happy. You only turn 27 one time or more.
It's 11 times for me. So this will be my 11th, 27th birthday.
That's good. Good. Both good numbers. Both good numbers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's some Common Core math for you guys.
Yeah. Anyway, do we know what we are doing next week yet? I'm not sure I'm going to be here. I'm going to try to check in from like my coming in from LAX.
Well, given that Courtney's going back to school and lots of kids are going back to school, we're going to do, drum roll, 1973 Satan's School for Girls.
Woo-hoo!
So the key thing here is that there's 2 versions of this movie, and we can talk about both. So there's a 1973 original, and then and that one is streaming. And then there is a 2000 and I think I can't remember. It's 2000, 2008, 2000. It's some.
It says 2000.
It is 2000. Okay. So there was a bunch of those were made and were made in the 2000s. A lot of those 1970s horror movies with teenagers were made again in the 2000s. So that one, there is one of those. And I think that is only a bad version on YouTube, but we can watch. We've done it before. So we can actually enjoy both of them.
Or I just watched the 2000s one so I can avoid a 70s movie again.
Yeah, and I think you recognize some of the actors and actresses, at least in the 2000 version. So it'll be interesting to watch both. So that's Satan's School for Girls. coming to you next week.
Everybody.
Not a musical.
So before we go, again, we want to keep wishing you happy birthday, Courtney. Does anybody have anything coming up that they want to talk about that we should know about? Richard-Lael.
Oh, Richard-Lael.
I have some exciting news. So my friend Raven runs tours to Scotland. And next year, next June, I believe, I am going to be doing a paranormal mystical tour of Scotland.
Whoa.
Say that again. When?
It's in June.
Hang on.
And there's
When?
only-
June of next year. I'm writing this down. Hold on.
There's only 22 tickets. It's a great price. It's 10 days. We go through haunted locations and we go through Edinburgh. There's like 4 different spaces that we go to. It's really fun. We'll have some paranormal experiences. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think there's a QR code. I don't know if we can put that up, but there's a QR code.
I think it's up there, right?
Is that it? I don't know if that's it or not.
Yeah, it is.
Richard-Lael
There it
tour,
is.
yeah.
Okay, so that's the QR code. You can also look down here at the website, and you can go there. We only have 22 tickets, so get it in now, get it in early, and then we can make it happen.
This might be the reason I finally get a passport.
You should get a passport.
Everybody should have a passport.
You've got a year to plan. So, and it's really not as expensive as one would think. I looked at it and I was thoroughly impressed with.
Let me
With
scan
price.
this QR code right now.
So yeah,
It might just be all of us coming with you.
I would love that. Wouldn't it be great if we had a Witches Movie Coven in Scotland, and we'd have to find some Scottish Highland film to watch with witches, but we could do it.
Oh,
Very
absolutely.
good.
Oh, wow.
How fun. Well, thank
That's
you so much. So you guys check it out. If you can't find where to do it on the QR code, contact Richard-Lael. He'll let you know. Right. Okay. Anybody else have anything coming up?
I'm gonna jump in and mention Charles Oz again. That is coming up in, I think, just about 4 weeks. I will have more information as we get closer. I have to prepare my presentation on the Wizard of Oz witches through Hollywood's history. So that's what I get to do. I'll be doing that on Friday. I believe it's scheduled for like 11 a.m. on that Friday in Charlotte again. This is a convention dedicated to everything Wizard of Oz. So if you love the Wizard of Oz and are close to Charlotte, North Carolina, come pop in. I'll be doing my lecture again on 11 a.m. on Friday. And they also have, which I'm super excited about, is the writer of Gregory Maguire, who wrote Wicked, is doing a lecture the night before. So I am going to be in the audience for that because I am very excited about hearing that. And there's a lot of other great things about all kinds of anything to do with the Wizard of Oz. So it's a whole weekend of fun. So that's coming up next month. In a month.
Yay. Oh, I'd love to go.
Mhm.
Courtney,
I got nothing.
you got nothing?
I'm barely surviving. So that's what I'll be doing, is surviving.
School just started.
Right. So I'm a shell of my former self.
All right. Well, I've got some stuff too. I'm actually got a magical UK tour in a couple weeks. I call it the Tour of Withered and Worms, Witches and Dragons, basically. Witches and dragons throughout England and Wales. Will be really fun with Liz, who's one of our teachers at University Magicus, and she is an archaeologist and a historian and a Norse witch, so that will be really fun. And then lots of other fun things coming up. Massachusetts Paracon, the Warrens Paracon, Battleship New Jersey Supernatural Soiree. So just follow all of us. Go to our websites. We appreciate it if you like us, follow us, and do all that. And tell your friends. Oh, and I have a beautiful Llewellyn book coming out. I finally turned it in. Oh my God, Dollcraft. Thank you, Heather Greene. Care and feeding of haunted dolls from a witchy perspective, and magical puppets. One of my favorite subjects, one of my favorite magical things. So check us all out and come back next week and watch Satan School for Girls. We have one more thing to do. I'm trying to think. Do we go? I love you, Ponyo? No, just
No.
cackle. No.
Ponyo loves Sosuke.
True love.
Love. One. Then we'll just cackle. 1, 2, 3.